Hey, you're back with the Penny Stupid podcast with myself, Steve Rode, and Damon Day. We're back talking about more side hustle information. Damon, do you have any burning topics before I start with what I have this week?
It's a loaded question. No, actually, I am completely unprepared for this uh, little podcast because you said you want to talk about what you want to talk about, and we didn't do the show before the show, so I'm pretty much here for reaction today.
Okay, well, Damon, I just got back from a trip to London, and while I was there, I took my share of black cab rides and Uber cab rides. And while I was in the Uber, I think I had like 4 different trips. I talked to the drivers. I wanted to get their feedback on what things were like on the other side of the pond. It was all the complaints of Uber and Lyft drivers here. Were they experiencing any of it, and what was their opinion? And I was really very, very surprised. In fact, I think what's been happening in England is more of a foreshadowing of what is going to happen here in the United States. It turns
Bum,
out
bum,
that
bum.
yeah, and you can see this coming. I mean, we don't when you have an international company like Uber,
I didn't
things
even
don't
see it coming.
yeah, things don't happen in a vacuum, right? If something has been learned in another part of the world and it's beneficial, like here in the United States, it's coming to the United States. So
Oh, and
what?
I'm sure it has to do with making more money for drivers, right? That's what Uber's focus is.
Oh, absolutely not.
So
Um,
it's all about making more money. It's about helping the
well,
drivers make more money. That's what Uber's
well,
focused on right now.
well. I believe that people have that negative impression, and to some extent, the company has to look out for itself. It has to try to maximize their income. As a driver, we don't know all the obligations that I'm just going to pick on Uber as a generic term. We don't know the obligations that a company like Uber has overall. And so while it might seem that they're stealing money or skimming tips or shortchanging the driver, there's more information to the story. And drivers are going to be uh, probably less sympathetic to their side, but it is what it is. So what happened in England, the different drivers told me, is that I don't know if it was a year or two ago. Anyway, there was a lawsuit by drivers that wanted to become employees instead of being independent contractors. Well, that happened, and what also happened at the same time was their income dropped dramatically, and fees
Oh
and
shit.
and yeah, the cost of riding in an Uber went up. And so
Hmm.
now, uh, the unintended consequence of that is a group of drivers became employees, and they get some benefits. They get some
Get them
vacation time.
bennies.
Yep. But because prices went up, tips went down. People
Yep.
don't want to tip anymore because it's so expensive. Now, to give you a comparison, I was going to book an Uber XL from just because we had luggage and everything else from the hotel in central London to the airport. And it was going to be like 80 pounds, which well, it's going to be 80 British pounds. Instead, what we did was we flagged down a black cab on the street, which holds about 6 people and lots of luggage, and went to the airport, and that was about 50 pounds. So not only was it significantly cheaper, but they're readily available, so you don't have to
Now, when
worry
you say
about
a
it.
black cab, is that like a yellow cab here? Is that what you mean by black cab?
Yeah, well, London is very famous for their black cabs, and they happen to be primarily black. But in order to become a cab driver in London, you don't just have to like buy a medallion. You have to go through this whole knowledge test, and you have to learn all the streets, and you have to be qualified. And there's a whole the
So
cab
so
drivers.
Uber so Uber was more, and this is an XL. So Uber XL was almost double what just like what we would consider like an old school cab
Yeah,
was that you just flagged down and took you to the airport.
yeah. The best way to think about the black cabs in England is they seat 6 people. So you've got a bench seat in the back where 3 people could sit. And then there's probably like a 4-foot area, and then up to where the uh, the driver sits. There's a partition there, but they have 3 more seats that will fold down. So, I mean, we were in there. Pam and I were in there with our luggage and scads of room for half the price that it would have cost us. In fact, what I did was I booked the Uber XL and went, this price is ridiculous, and then canceled it.
Yeah.
And just went out in the street, flagged down a cab, and half the price to get there. Now, the drivers that I talked to ran the range of people who had been doing it 8 years to people who had been doing it for 2 years. And the more experienced driver told me, actually, I audio taped the interview and then transcribed it here. He said that they no longer see any surge in London. There's no bonuses or anything like that because
Well, yeah, because they're getting a minimum pay for being an employee, right?
right. Well, they're so saturated with drivers, they don't need to encourage it. So at any point where because we were kind of all over London, but anytime I pulled up the app, Damon, there was like 10 cars nearby. You really never had to
Just following you?
just
Like,
just
hey,
the
this
cars
guy
were
might need a ride.
they were just everywhere. And
Yeah.
the rides that we did in London were all Uber X because I mean, why pay more? But he said that from last year to this year, the Uber driver income has gone down by his income has gone down by about 30%. And since he started driving 6 or 7 years ago, his total Uber income has gone down by about 80%. And he said he's very fanatical about tracking everything on a spreadsheet. And it's just been dropping. Now,
Well, Steve, we talk about the cycle of these apps, right?
right,
Uber needed the drivers 8 years ago when he started.
right.
They needed drivers. They were at a point and they're trying to build their app, build their street cred, if you will. They were incentivizing the hell out of these drivers. They're offering all kinds of money. And as Uber gained traction and people knew who they were and other drivers, you can make a lot of money. It's just supply and demand. It's basic stuff. It's like, should be no surprise to anybody that the money that the drivers are making now is going down because Uber's need for you as a driver is a lot smaller than it was 8 years ago. They really needed you 8 years ago. Now, drivers are a dime a dozen and there's automated cars right around the corner. So we're dropping the price to this so we can make sure we boost our profits and start paying some of our investors back. If you don't like it, you can leave, right? That's what Uber's mentality is. As to be expected, this should not be a surprise to anybody how they're acting right now. If it's a surprise, you just don't know how it works.
Well,
and you're getting an expensive lesson.
It's a surprise to people who exist in isolation and think that all these things are only happening here in the United States. The black cab driver, the very experienced one, told me something very interesting. He said just recently, Uber came out and said, we would like black cab drivers to sign up on our platform. We'll give you rides. And they said that they would not charge any sort of fees or commissions or deductions on their fares for the first 6 months. So cab drivers would get everything. And the cab drivers in London are very organized. There's about 15,000 black cabs in London. And he said, as far as he was aware on his black cab driver Facebook group, only one driver signed up because they just saw it as a no-win situation for them.
Well, Uber's just trying to edge out that service, get those drivers over there, and then it's just Uber wants to take them over, right? And then now Uber's free to do what they want to do. They don't have to worry about the extra competition there. There's not enough black cab drivers left because Uber took them all. That's what Uber's trying to do.
Yeah.
It's just smart business.
And the black cabs are more competition for Uber right now because their rates are cheaper. Because they're not paying as much. Now, another Uber driver told me that a year ago, his acceptance rate on the platform was about 98%.
Because the
The
rides paid
rides
well.
the rides paid well, and he accepted every ride that he could, and he
Yeah.
said, "Right now, my acceptance rate is 8%."
It's hey, it's like me. On Uber today, I'm 8% actually. Last week I was 4%. You'd be surprised how accepting one ride will positively change your acceptance rate if you're sitting at 4%. It doesn't take one or two rides, all of a sudden you double your AR.
Right, right.
I'm like, oh no,
So,
I'm at 8. Like I'm feeling like I'm flying high at 8%.
hey, I don't wanna pee in people's Wheaties here, and, you know, drivers are, uh if they want to try to organize and unionize and whatever it is that they wanna do to try to
No,
get
it's not
a
gonna work.
living wage and increase their income, the unintended consequences of doing that is that overall, all drivers are going to lose.
Absolutely. They don't figure that out. But here's, I was thinking about this the other day. So and I understand the sentiment, right? And we're not anti-driver, we're not pro
No,
Lyft.
no,
We're
right.
pro. This is the reality, dipshit. That's what we're
Exactly.
pro. We're pro, like, because the more information you know about what's happening and why it's happening, the better decisions you can make for yourself.
Exactly.
Like, maybe this is not going to be a long-term thing. Instead of resisting and bitching and moaning. But anyway, I was thinking about this the other day. So again, Uber is just an opportunity, right? Some people hate it; they don't pay enough, and then you got other people that's perfect for. So let's say you're in a situation where you decided on your own that you want to be a full-time driver, you want to be an Uber guy, and last year you were making $2,000 a week and things were great and you were happy. And now you're working a lot longer and only making $1,500 a week and you're mad. And Uber owes me this, and Uber's stealing my tips, and Uber's doing this, and Uber's doing that, and Uber's screwing up my life. But yet you still are parked at the airport, still just
Right.
doing Uber rides, nothing else. You're just bitching and moaning and complaining. You don't think it's fair. You think Uber owes you a living wage. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one scenario. Now, what if you're somebody who's not wanting to be a full-time driver? You have a full-time job, or you're maybe a stay-at-home mom and the kids go to school and you have a couple hours during the day that, your husband's
Okay.
going to work all day or whatever. And you're like, you know what? Uber is perfect. I can just log in when I want. I don't have to check
Right.
in with anybody. I don't have to be on a schedule. And I can go out, and it doesn't pay a lot of money, but I can go out and make $15 to $20 an hour here, an hour there. And it works perfect. And I just kind of stay around my house or whatever. And I like Uber the way it is because it's super flexible. I don't need a living wage, right?
Right. Right.
So why is the person that decided to make Uber their full-time thing, why should, their situation trump the other situation where the opportunity that Uber's able to provide, because you're an independent contractor, because they're not guaranteeing you a certain minimum amount of money every hour, that person has that flexibility, which they desire more so than necessarily a couple extra dollars an hour more, but then end up like those cab drivers who are now employees, or like what's happening with DoorDash in New York.
Right.
We're seeing it right there. I'm already seeing stories and videos about drivers getting deactivated, shocker of all shocks, because they're on earn by time now in New York,
Yeah.
and they're slow rolling the shit out of the deliveries. Oh my gosh. Didn't see that coming. The guy's getting paid a guaranteed amount of money, and he's just, I'm chilling in the parking lot. I don't have a care in the world about. And so now DoorDash is deactivating drivers that they can tell are taking a lot longer to deliver an order than they should, right? And because they're just milking the clock on active time. They're going slow on purpose, right?
Well,
So
this whole earn my time thing. So that's my information I have from the other side of the pond about rideshare. Now, you and I have talked about this whole earn by time thing. I still don't understand it because
I do. I think it's great for DoorDash. I think DoorDash
for them,
DoorDash
yeah.
is going to convert to earn by time. All you
Yeah, they're gonna
drivers out
convert
there
everything.
thinking you want your state to do what New York did, you just watch.
They're gonna do it.
DoorDash is going to be looking at New York, right?
Yeah.
Replay this video next year. DoorDash is going to watch what happened in New York. Oh, we got this guaranteed rate, blah, 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 blah. They're going to roll it out everywhere because DoorDash is going to figure out, because these stupid politicians got involved, because they always make it better. And now DoorDash is going to figure out, you know what? By having a guaranteed minimum, we can get rid of a lot of these drivers that we don't need. We don't need as many drivers. And now we can dictate to these drivers what they have to do. They're no longer just, before DoorDash was pulling their hair out. Who's going to take these $2 orders? Who's going to take? Nobody's taking those orders. Now, I'm in New York. I'm on this guaranteed pay. here you go. You got to take this order. You got to
Well,
take this order. You got to drive 40 miles for your
yeah.
guaranteed
Well,
$17 an hour.
let's be fair that this is not about just New York. This DoorDash earned by time is spreading across the country.
Well, yeah, they're using that to test it out in these different markets. But I'm saying it was mandated in New York, so they're required to do that. But what DoorDash is going to do is they're going to learn that DoorDash is going to make more money doing this New York thing and getting rid of drivers and just keeping drivers on. Here's your guaranteed minimum. Because you know what happens when you have some drivers making 30, 40 bucks an hour because they're using their head and they're stacking orders and they're multi-apping, and then some other drivers that are just, I don't want to say lazy, but just not really doing much. Well, in order to guarantee those bottom drivers $17 an hour, where does the money come from? It comes from the top guys. So those top guys are going to end up quitting because the system is going to change to where they can't make as much. And good luck multi-apping. If you're on DoorDash guaranteed earning by time and you're getting your $17 an hour, right? How are you going to go and grab an Uber and stack it while DoorDash is meticulously tracking your movements because they are paying you? You're now on their clock. They are paying every extra second you take. You think you're gonna be able to deviate half a mile and grab a burrito for an Uber Eats because you're going 15 miles that way and the DoorDash 17 bucks an hour isn't worth it? No, you're gonna get your ass deactivated, right? So you just watch. You watch what happens in New York. DoorDash is gonna love it. They're gonna say, this is great. We're gonna make more money. All the drivers are gonna make less. That's perfect. Congratulations, New York. You did it.
Well, again, I really don't think this is about New York because this has just been the right opportunity for DoorDash to roll this out in more locations.
Absolutely.
Your Driver Mike, the YouTube channel, Your Driver Mike.
I love Driver Mike.
Yeah, he's great. I love him. He drives.
Is he my driver or is he your driver?
I guess I don't know. Is it? Which is it?
I guess it's in the eye of the beer holder.
Okay.
He's your driver. He's your driver. It was a joke, Steve. It's Your Driver Mike is the name of his channel.
Okay. I couldn't remember. But he's in Pittsburgh, and that's where you have an option there, drive by time or drive by order. And he just did this whole drive by time thing. I'm going to see how it works. And if you
hated it,
if you decline one order out of 10, you're going to get kicked off from doing any more orders. But so you're accepting more orders. They're going to be trash orders going who knows where. Leaving you, who knows where outside of your zone. And also, as he observed, you're getting less tips. So, but while Pittsburgh right now still has that option of drivers choosing, the fact that you have an option to choose is just saying that as drive by time keeps rolling out to more places, it is eventually going to become the de facto platform.
Well, that's why I keep bringing up New York, because New York, you don't have the option to choose anymore because the legislature went in and said, oh, we're going to guarantee everybody this minimum. So New York essentially went already to where I think DoorDash is going, where you don't have the option to do earn by order. You have to do the earn by time. That's what they're doing. And then what DoorDash is doing in New York, they're increasing the DoorDash fees up front because you got to pay this minimum pay now, pushing the tips to the back. But like you said, you don't get as many tips now like over in London, right? Because the rides are so damn expensive. So now DoorDash is going to be charging the customers more up front, but that's all going to DoorDash. That's not going to the driver. And then that customer is going to be less likely to give a tip on the back end because they paid so much up front. So that's why I'm saying DoorDash is going to run the numbers on that stuff, and they're going to realize they're getting the shitty orders delivered, and it takes tipping out of the equation. People order, people get their delivery because they're on a guaranteed minimum of $17 an hour, whatever that is. And they're going to have to, so it's going to make DoorDash a better service from a customer standpoint. They're not going to have cold orders anymore. And DoorDash is going to end up paying out less fucking money to the drivers. Here's what people, we're getting their $29 an hour in New York, right? Here's what nobody talks about. What happens if DoorDash says you need to go 20 miles for this one?
Right.
Nobody talks about how much you're getting paid versus the number of, everybody talks about dollar per mile all over the place. All of a sudden you get guaranteed time and nobody talks about dollar per mile.
Well,
you're going to be going on nature hikes all over the country. I mean, come on.
The same people who say, I deserve to be an employee, I should be an employee, all this. I don't think that people understand the costs of being an employer. How much additional cost
to the employer.
Right, to the employer. the additional tax benefit and everything else. You have to pay your other 7.5% of Social Security and everything else. So those fees have to come out of somewhere. You don't get to be an employee on the same scale that you were an independent contractor.
Well, the problem is a lot of these drivers, because they don't understand how it works, unfortunately, some of them do, but a lot of them don't. They think they're going to have the same opportunity like they have now,
Right.
but then get here's what they want. I want everything the same, but I want a guaranteed amount of money.
Right.
That's not how it's going to work. If you get the guaranteed amount of money, it's not going to be the same.
All right. What do you think about this wave of drivers that are trying to, like, unionize might be the wrong word, but strike, and we're going to show the company, they need us. Do you think that's going to go anywhere?
No, won't go anywhere. I understand the sentiments. I get it, but it's you're not going to change anything. It's the way the world's going. So what's Andy Dufresne say? Get busy living or get busy dying. You're dying right now. Let's just be real. Let's be real. How hard is it to replace you? Let's just take a look in the mirror. This is not a high skilled deal, dude. You're driving a car around, dropping stuff off. A robot could replace you right now. They have cars on the road right now that are doing your job, right? I know you don't want to hear it. I know I'm going to get attacked for that, but facts are facts. We got to face reality. This is something that's getting you money right now. It's not a long-term thing. You quit tomorrow and Uber wouldn't know. DoorDash wouldn't know. Lyft wouldn't know. Anybody can do it, right? You got a car, you got a driver's license, great. That's all you need. Anybody can do it. If you don't have a high demand skill that a lot of other people can't get or have a hard time getting, if you don't have that, you're not going to make a lot of money most of the time. Anybody could become an Uber driver tomorrow, right? So you got to kind of stay in your lane. See what I did there?
Well, when I was in London, I noticed that a lot of the food, almost all the food delivery, in fact, was done by guys on mopeds,
Yeah.
and every one of them had a learner's plate on it, meaning that they didn't have their full driver's license. And
I know I'm going to get a lot of hate.
Well,
but I just want to make this one quick point, because it's like, I know we get a lot of hate by these drivers. Again, I understand the sentiment, but our job here, we're here helping people try to make money. Striking and all that stuff is just taking time away from making money for your family. So you need to pivot. You need to do something different. You're not going to I'm not saying Lyft and Uber aren't like totally screwing you. They totally are. I'm just saying you shouldn't be surprised that they're totally screwing you at this stage where they're at.
Don't expect it's going to get better.
Yeah, you're not going to turn it around. Now, you can be wishful thinking about that, or you could be focusing your energy on finding some other things that you can do that pay what Lyft and Uber used to pay you. Lyft and Uber are never going to pay you that much money again. Don't waste time trying to convince them they should. It's a waste of time. Maybe go do some other apps that are paying. I pivoted into Walmart Spark and Instacart and DoorDash, and I'm multi-app. I'm averaging $40 an hour.
Liar.
Most people driving regular Lyft aren't averaging $40 an hour, and I'm driving half the amount of miles, and I'm staying close to my house, and I'm not out all night anymore.
I like when people criticize you for those numbers and say they can't be true and you're a liar, because just because they're not doing it doesn't mean it's not true.
Well, that's why I'm doing these ride-along videos I'm going to start posting up, right? So it's like, This is what I'm doing. And I'm not saying every market you can make $40 an hour, but if you have a smaller market, you might be able to do what I'm doing and make $30 an hour or $25. But these guys that are trying to make this $1,500, $2,000 a week that they used to be able to do, they could still do it with Lyft and Uber, but they're driving 12, 18 hours a day. If that's what you want, that's fine. But, I worked last week I did 27 hours. That was it. Very part-time, 27 hours, made almost $1,200 in 27 hours. I averaged $43 an hour doing Instacart, Walmart Spark, some DoorDash, a tiny little bit of Uber Eats, and a handful of Lyft Black rides. Okay? I'm not going to get attacked. Well, you do Lyft Black. That's not fair. I don't understand that people attack me for when I say my earnings. And they say, well, you do Lyft Black. It's like, if I did a video, if I bought a cargo van and wanted to do a video on how much money I make as a delivery driver with the cargo van, would I get attacked for that? Because not everybody also has a cargo van. I mean, dude, go buy a black car if you want to drive for black. It's not my fault.
Let's extrapolate this, because if we look forward, this sort of structure where the company is more in control and can pay less and dictate more to the drivers is going to happen with the Instacarts, the Walmart Sparks, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's just not happening now. So if you want to maximize your income, you really need to listen to what Damon's going to be saying in these upcoming videos. So be sure to subscribe. And he's going to show you step by step how he multi-apps and how much he makes. And this is going to be a true ride along so you can see how it's done.
Yeah. These opportunities are eventually going to go away. They don't like drivers cherry picking and taking all the good orders. But for the base pay that they pay, I mean, some of these orders I'm getting $30, $40 to go deliver, and the base pay on that was $8, $9. So if it wasn't for a customer tip, they would be offering $8. I mean, so Walmart or Spark and Instacart, these companies it's not like these companies are paying out a whole bunch of money. It's the tips from the customers. That's where you get the money. But when you're shopping for food for somebody, I don't know, maybe they're more inclined to offer a better tip because you're providing a very personalized service. Although I think you should get a tip as a driver, but I think when I do still drive Lyft and Uber, I get a lot less tips than I used to.
Yeah.
Driving Lyft and Uber. I'll do 10 rides and I'll be like, if I get 2 or 3 tips, that's good. Especially on the black tier. I almost never get tips anymore on the black tier. Once in a while I will. Yeah, but they figure they're paying a lot. But now even on UberX I used to get, and Lyft, regular Lyft, I would get, 70% tips. I mean, I'm likable, I'm fun, I'm a good driver, I've got a really nice car, especially for UberX. Most people get in that Tesla and they go, oh my gosh, this is the nicest Uber I ever was in, because I usually don't drive UberX and most Teslas don't. Well, some of them do, I guess. But I used to get a lot more tips because the rides were cheaper. Now, even those I'm noticing, it's down to like 30% tips, maybe 40%. And it's just going like, dude, this is not worth it. I did a $3 ride the other day doing an experiment for the YouTube channel. $3 Uber ride, or Lyft ride, no tip. I'm like, I just did a $3 ride and didn't even get a tip on what am I doing out here?
All right. Well, that was my update from London. Damon, we're going to be checking in soon with your video coming up, your ride along and your instructional video. I really look forward to that.
Well, right now it's an hour long. I'm trying to cut it down, but Steve says, hey, if it's good information, just leave it. You want to watch the whole hour, you'll learn a whole bunch. If you don't, shut it off.
Damon, you got anything else to add before we say goodbye?
Subscribe, man. Come on. We hit 600. We hit 600. We're like 601. 600.
All right, man. See ya.